Tell me if this sounds like anyone you know. This person, who shall remain unnamed, has a great idea for a side hustle, has a great idea for how to make money in the hours that they're not teaching. They've thought about it, they have a plan for it, they have a vision of how it could work, yet they have not acted on it. Does that sound like anyone you know? Be honest. Is that you? If so, in today's podcast episode, we're going to unpack some of the main reasons that keep coming up when I ask teachers, why haven't you started that side hustle yet? Why aren't you making more money on the side of your teaching job yet? We're going to unpack some of those things and talk about some strategies to help you kind of get out of your own head and find the time and the space and the permission in your own mind to go ahead and start that side hustle that you know can change your life. This is Rich Teachers with Becky Park. So in this episode, we're going to unpack the 4 main things that people say to me when I ask them why they haven't started their side hustles yet. And a lot of times I will talk with my colleagues or with other teachers who have really great ideas that I'm kind of jealous I didn't think of myself. They have an idea for something that could actually work, something that could make them really good money, and they just haven't started. And these are the top 4 things that keep coming up. Number 1, someone will say to me, I'm still in the learning phase. I still need to learn more about how to do X, Y, and Z. Number 2, someone will tell me that they don't have the time to start this side hustle. Number 3, someone will tell me that they're just so afraid of what the people around them will say or think, especially those that they work alongside or, they're administrators at their job. And finally, they're just too scared, or perhaps their perfectionism is getting in the way. So like I said, we're going to unpack all of these things, and we're going to see if we can get those hurdles out of the way for you so that you can go ahead and start doing this thing that I promise you is going to change your life. So let's start by talking about those teachers that like to just stay in that learning phase to learn as much as they can before they get started. The problem is they just learn, and they never actually take the plunge to do. So I definitely found myself in that same boat when I was thinking about starting my YouTube channel to talk about my journey as a part-time reseller. That was already a side hustle that I had started. I guess this was like contemplating whether to start a side hustle to the side hustle. But I remember spending probably a solid year just watching YouTube videos about how to make YouTube videos. I would watch all of these different content creators who talked about the best tips and tricks on how to build and grow a YouTube channel. I watched similar content about Instagram, just basically about content creation in general. And at the time, I was slowly building up my Instagram following. And Instagram is one of those things that I like it, but I never really poured that much of myself into it just because I didn't really see what the financial benefit was on the other side. I guess, people could approach you for brand deals and sponsorships and stuff, and that has happened, but I don't think it's nearly as lucrative as YouTube. And so it was never something that I put that much energy and time into, but I was at that moment in time. This is, 2019. I was putting as much as I could into Instagram at the time, just trying to grow my follower account, just trying to see if I could turn that into anything. And when I had around 6,000 or 7,000 followers on Instagram, that's when a friend reached out to me after finding my reselling Instagram account on Instagram. And he was like, oh, what are you doing with this? And we had a conversation where I told him that my ultimate dream and goal was to start a YouTube channel about my reselling business and my reselling journey. And he was like, well, what's stopping you? Why aren't you doing that right now? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I just feel like I'm not really ready yet. I feel like I need to have 10,000 followers here on Instagram before I start a YouTube channel. And he was the one that convinced me to start my YouTube journey before I felt ready. Knowledge-wise, I did feel kind of ready. It's not like I didn't know anything about what it meant to film YouTube videos, what it meant to grow my YouTube channel. I knew a lot of the tips and tricks and hacks because, like I said, for an entire year, I had been immersed in content about how to create and grow YouTube channels. And it really just took for him to say to me, do it. do it now. Just do it. And it really took him in that moment in time offering to film my first few videos, help edit those first few videos. I think that was the push that I needed to get started. It was kind of like one of those now or never type situations. If I don't take him up on his offer right now, I probably won't have that kind of amazing kickstart ever again. So I seized the opportunity. I was like, sure, let's do it. If you want to come over and help me film and edit, let's do it. You know, if you've listened to any of my previous podcast episodes, you know that after about 3 to 5 videos, he told me he couldn't help me with my YouTube channel anymore because it was far more time consuming than he thought it would be. And he had other things to tend to, like his own 9 to 5, growing his own social media presence. And although I had all of this YouTube knowledge in my head, when I had to sit down and actually edit my own videos, when I had to sit down and actually problem solve, how do I get videos from my phone to my laptop in order to edit them when these two things are not playing nicely with one another, when my laptop doesn't want to receive these super large files from my phone? How do I do that? I realized that there's no amount of information in the world that you can gain from courses or from watching, YouTube content about how to do that one thing, or from reading blogs or articles. You can learn a ton, but it is not going to replace what you need to learn by actually doing the dang thing. There is something about getting your hands dirty, being in the trenches, and actually experiencing what it is that you want to do that is going to teach you what you need to know about that particular side hustle. There wasn't a video that existed on YouTube that I could watch that could have prepared me for the struggle of what it was that I would need to do in order to get my video files from my phone to my laptop. It just took a lot of experimenting on my end to realize, oh my gosh, I have to film these suckers in 2 to 3 minute segments and send all these little baby video files over to my laptop. That's the only way that my laptop is going to accept those files. That was something that I just had to figure out through trial and error. There are even a lot of YouTube videos out there about setting up your first YouTube studio space. Like, here's the camera you need and the microphone and this and that, or here's how to create a nice space in your home to film. And none of those videos could have prepared me for my actual context, which was, well, geez, like there aren't very many spaces in my home with a lot of natural light. I don't have a ring light yet. I don't know where to put my phone when I'm filming because I don't have a tripod for it. And I remember just trial and error, trying a lot of different things, going to different rooms in my house and trying to figure out which room has the best lighting. I remember, just stacking a bunch of books and boxes on top of each other and then placing my phone on top of that pile of junk and pressing play that way. It was so much trial and error. And even though I spent an entire year just watching and learning and reading and doing all of the right things, there was still so much that all of that research and all of that learning didn't prepare me for. And that's because some things you can only learn and figure out by doing. I'll be honest with you, if you are the type of person that likes to be really prepared going into things, that may be what prevents you from ever starting your side hustle, because you will never feel prepared enough. There's always more to learn. There's always someone who knows more than you. You have to take the plunge before you feel fully ready, because the only way to learn all of the things that you need to learn is by actually doing the dang thing. And as someone who's been on YouTube now since 2019, I still cannot say that I know or feel fully confident about everything that there is to know about YouTube. And if I waited until I was at that point, if I waited until I felt like I knew how to do everything, then I never would have gotten started. So my advice to you is, don't wait until you feel ready. You need to start your journey before you feel ready. Go in knowing that you are, for the most part, going to feel like you are constantly treading water, and oftentimes like the water is above your head. But I promise you that with experience, it will get easier. And there is no amount of just information or knowledge that you can acquire that will replace what experience gives you. The next excuse I get from a lot of teachers when I ask them why they haven't started their side hustles yet is they'll tell me that they don't have enough time. I want to kind of paint a picture for you of what my life looked like when I started my side hustle in December of 2017. So we're going to actually just call it 2018, because I think I started selling on Poshmark on like December 20th of 2017. So in 2018, that January, when I started reselling, I was teaching at the same high school that I'm teaching at now. I am a high school choir teacher. I have 3 choir classes, and then I have like a music theory or songwriting class. I, at that time, was running 2 different a cappella groups before school. So I would get to school at 7 o'clock every day, and I would rehearse with one of my 2 a cappella groups. And those a cappella groups would practice at least one Saturday a month as well. And that Saturday rehearsal would be like 4 hours. I also was the music director for the theater program. So I was in charge of teaching, all of the vocal parts to the students in the musicals. And we do 2 musicals a year. And in January, we were in the thick of doing auditions. And a lot of my hours after school were spent in rehearsal. And I would say in the 2 to 3 weeks leading up to the actual performance itself, I would be at school from 7 in the morning, because at 7 I was there for a cappella, until sometimes 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night because of rehearsals, tech rehearsals, dress rehearsals, performances. It was a busy schedule at work. On top of that, I was heavily involved with my church. I was singing at church on Friday nights. I was singing at church on Sundays. I had like Bible studies or different meetings that I would attend with church. On top of that, in 2018, my daughter was 5 and my son was almost 1. He was still an infant. He wasn't even 1 year old yet. And so I was also just busy being a mom and changing diapers and nursing. There was a lot going on. But my desire to make money was so strong that I was like, I know I'm so incredibly busy, but I need to find a way to make more money. And so I started reselling used clothing. I would take clothing from around our house that we no longer wore, and I would list those items on platforms like Poshmark, eBay, Kidizen, Mercari, anywhere where I could convince someone to buy that item from me, and I would ship it to them. When we ran out of clothing from our own home to resell, I started going to thrift stores, garage sales, anywhere where I could find clothes for cheap, and I would take pictures of those items, list those items, and sell those items online. There were some days that I had maybe 20, 30 minutes to dedicate to that particular side hustle. And there were some days where I was able to find 2 hours. But I think my desperation to make more money just kind of forced me to find the time that I needed to get it done. In 2019, when I decided to start my YouTube channel, I still had all of the same responsibilities that I told you about, plus my reselling business. And now I was going to start a YouTube channel. And I'm not going to lie to you, my husband was like, I don't think you have time for this. I don't think that this is sustainable or something that you're going to be able to do without just completely forsaking your family or your other responsibilities. And I was like, I think that there's time in the day because I know that there is time that I'm not using super wisely. And I found the time again to add a side hustle to my side hustle because I had this strong belief, this gut feeling that this YouTube channel could change our lives as well. So when I think back to how busy I was just a few years ago. And since then, I have relieved myself of a lot of those responsibilities. For example, my kids are older now in the sense that, like, for example, with my son, he's not constantly on me, like nursing all the time, or, we're not changing diapers and stuff anymore. They still need us a lot, but in different ways, but they're just way more independent. Now it's a lot more like driving them around to all of their extracurriculars or, just kind of like sitting with my daughter and talking with her about all of the things that happened in the day and letting her vent to me and just talking her through some of those issues that came up. But it's different. And they're not even in the house a lot because they are at their different extracurriculars. And so nowadays I have longer stretches of time to get focused work done when they're both at gymnastics or when she's at volleyball and he's at a friend's house or, they're just more independent. But like actual duties that I've relieved myself of, I no longer am the music director for the musicals at my school. I did really enjoy it, but it took up so much time and the amount of money that I earned from that stipend just didn't justify the amount of hours that I was putting into that program. And so that was something that I stepped away from and am very thankful that I did. I think it was definitely the right decision to make. Church is not as busy as it used to be. There are definitely things in my life that are not as busy now. But in that time period when my life was really busy, some people will tell you to do a time audit. I don't think I went that far, but when people tell you to do a time audit, they're literally saying, get a piece of paper and every time you do anything, write down what time it is, what you're doing, and how long it's taking you. And that could be, I woke up at 8 o'clock. It took me 20 minutes to actually get out of bed. And then I got ready in the bathroom from this time to this time. I scrolled on my phone for 10 minutes. I went and made breakfast from this time to this. Like, they're literally saying, keep a record of where every minute of your day is going. What is your time being allocated to? And if you were to do that, you would probably find, unless you've already done something like this before, and unless you're already super efficient with your time, you'll probably find that you're wasting a lot of time doom scrolling on your phone, or just binging on Netflix, or I don't know, sitting on the toilet. Like, I don't know what else you could be doing that is just kind of a waste of time. And people will say, do an audit so that you can figure out where there is some time in your life. Again, I didn't go so far as to get out an actual piece of paper and keep track of every minute of my day. But I just kind of knew intuitively, yeah, there's a lot of time that I'm spending on Facebook or on Instagram, and I can probably cut that out. I knew intuitively, yeah, there's a lot of time wasted just watching shows on Netflix that I've already watched before. I'm just rewatching them. I probably don't need to do that in my life. And when I started my YouTube channel especially, I was just in this grind era, and it's definitely not something that I would recommend to you at this moment in time. One thing that you're going to hear me preach on this podcast is putting yourself and putting your health first. And to me, that means sleeping enough, eating well, exercising. I feel like if you're not doing those things, if you've got a flourishing business, but you are the unhealthiest version of yourself as a result, I don't know that that's the right payoff. I don't know that that's worth it. But when I started my YouTube channel, I'll be honest, I was in my grind era, and I would just stay up because I got really good work done later in the evening. I would just stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning editing videos. At that time, honestly, I was just sacrificing sleep in order to get the things done that I needed to get done. And honestly, at that time, I was doing a little too much. I was trying to get up 3 videos a week on my YouTube channel when just having one well-done video would have sufficed. Sure, maybe my growth wouldn't have been as fast, but had I gone that route, I wouldn't have had to sacrifice sleep as much. I probably would have been healthier and not gotten as sick because I would have been sleeping better, and I would have been making time to exercise and move my body and get outside and do all of those things. But I just simply said, listen, the best time for me to get work done is when everyone else in my house is asleep, and that's when I'll sit and I'll edit and I'll get these videos up. And so that's what I did. I don't want you to do that, but I do want you to ask yourself, when is the best time for me to get a long period of focused work done? And maybe what that means is you have to wake up earlier than everyone in your house. That's honestly what I do now. Now I wake up around 5 o'clock, and that's when I'm able to do some of my little busy work type tasks, or that's when I will upload videos and create my thumbnails and get those up on YouTube. But oftentimes that's just when I work out. That's the time that I can create for myself. But it's finding the time in the day to do these things that matter to you. It's replacing the things in your life that don't actually bring anything positive to your life, things like doom scrolling, things like just binging on Netflix. It's getting rid of those things and replacing them with things that will actually change your life for the better, like starting your side hustle. Furthermore, when it came to starting my Rich Teachers podcast, the one reason why I just couldn't get around to starting it is because I would not schedule in the time to just get started. After kind of ruminating on Rich Teachers for a few months, I already knew so much of what I wanted to do with this new venture. I knew, that I wanted it to be a podcast. I knew what hosting service I wanted to go through. I knew I wanted to also push it out on YouTube. I knew the kinds of people that I wanted to have on the show. There were so many things already in place. The things that I hadn't done yet was I just hadn't signed up yet for Buzzsprout, which is where I host my podcast stuff. I just hadn't signed up for an email list service yet, which now I have. And if you want to join my email list, that's down in the show notes or in the description below. I just hadn't sat down to create my YouTube banner or my profile, even though I had basically in the first week that I had the idea for Rich Teachers, I had contacted a former student of mine who is a phenomenal artist. And I said, hey girl, I need you to create this logo for me. Here's the name of the brand. Here's kind of what I'm going for. I paid her some money to do it. I've been sitting on that for so long and just haven't been able to use it because I never scheduled the 1 hour, the 1 to 2 hours that I would need to do all of those things that I just listed, to sign up on Buzzsprout, to sign up for an email list, to make my YouTube banner art. All I needed to do was to schedule an hour or two in any day of any week to sit down and do it. But because I never scheduled it, it never got done. And what finally did it for me, the thing that got me to finally sit down and do the dang thing, was when one of the people that I had planned on reaching out to interview, actually, in the most serendipitous way, he reached out to me. We have no common friends. We have no reason for him to have reached out to me except for the fact that he watched a podcast episode that I did with Sean Cannell for Think Media Podcast, and he found my email address and reached out to me. And I was like, this is my sign. Like, I need to interview this man because I wanted to in the first place. And now we're already emailing each other. This is too easy. It's like meant to be. And so I reached out to him about interviewing him. We set up a time, and that's when I was like, well, I need to schedule that 1 or 2 hours in a day coming up to sit down and get my affairs in order when it comes to actually creating this podcast. And that's what did it for me. What doesn't get scheduled doesn't get done. Some of you have everything in your brain. You have everything that you need to get started except for that hour or two that you need to just write out your business plan, or to just make that logo, or to just sign up on YouTube, or to sign up for a podcast through something like Buzzsprout or Podcastle or whatever it is that you plan on using. Also, with Buzzsprout, if you wanted to sign up using Buzzsprout, if you were thinking about using a podcast, 1, I love it. 2, I do have an affiliate link down in the description or in the show notes if you want to check it out. If you want to save a little bit on Buzzsprout by using that link. But schedule in that 1 or 2 hours that you need to finally get this off the ground. Put it in your calendar. Make sure that nothing is going to bother you during that time. Just schedule it in and just get started. Number 3, you are afraid of what those around you will say. And I get it. This is a very real thing. I was honestly even afraid to tell my husband. And not because my husband is unsupportive, not because he's like a scary man. He's great. He's wonderful. And he's honestly one of the biggest reasons why I'm able to do the things that I do. He is supportive through actions. Like, he knows that one of my superpowers in life is making money and like doing the work that it takes to make extra money. And so he does a lot of things around the house so that I don't have to do them, so that my time is freed up to make money for the family. He does things like the laundry, he cooks, he cleans, he often drives the kids from place to place, and he does those things so that I don't have to do them. That being said, he is so logistical, and he looks at things very black and white. So even when I told him, I think I'm going to start a YouTube channel, he was just digesting that information by looking at the facts of, okay, but you're already so tired just from work and just from reselling. How are you going to add YouTube to that mix as well? And so it's not that he was unsupportive, but he just couldn't comprehend how this was going to work. So I'm not going to lie, I was a little afraid to tell him that I wanted to start a YouTube channel. I also, to be honest with you, hid my YouTube channel from all of my friends and family until, I don't know, maybe until I got monetized, until I felt like I was successful enough with it that I could share it and be like, look what I've been working on secretly behind the scenes without you knowing, and now I will share about it, because I don't think that you will assume that I'm going to be a failure with this venture. I don't know why I was like that. It was super weird. And when people tell me that they want to start YouTube channels, I tell them to do the exact opposite. I'm like, you need to tell everyone you know, you need to tell them to subscribe, you need to tell them to watch your videos. But I just didn't do it that way. I was just so scared of what people would say. I thought they would judge me. And I was afraid of my administrators finding out. I was afraid of, students finding my channel. But at some point I was like, you know what? I'm not going to hide it, because I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm not working on my YouTube channel while I'm supposed to be teaching. Like, I wouldn't feel guilty for enjoying playing pickleball on the weekends and posting about it on Instagram or something, I was like, you know what? Actually, I think that this is an asset. Like, I think the fact that I can do these kinds of things is an asset that people should know about and that people can be inspired by. And now, at some point, most of my students find out that I have a YouTube channel and they find out that I have an Instagram. I don't tell them. It's not like we start every class with like, by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe my YouTube channel. Like, I never promote myself like that in person. Every once in a while, it'll just come up in passing. You know, I have since being ashamed of starting a YouTube channel, I have grown and I have posted about my YouTube channel on my Facebook. I am friends with some of my students' parents on Facebook, and I'm sure they tell their kids. And I don't know, like, I think years ago when I first started, like, kids found out about it and then they just kind of passed it down from generation to generation. So it's like all the students just know. We don't really talk about it, but every once in a while it'll just come up. My Instagram handle for my reselling business is Becky Park on Poshmark. And there was a period where I had a few students who were just like, Becky Park on Poshmark. Like, when I would walk into the classroom, like, that's what they would call me. I had kids who would come into every single one of my lives on YouTube. Like, if I ever did a YouTube live video, I had kids who would come and they would comment and be so supportive, and they'd just be like, you're the GOAT, like, you're my favorite teacher. Like, they were just so supportive and sweet in that way. But I don't know. I have found that people generally want to be your biggest cheerleaders. Like, if you are in the classroom supporting your kids, the kids want to support you right back, and their parents want to support you right back. Like, I've had parents reach out to me and say, hey, I know you sell used clothing online. We've got some stuff. Like, do you want it? I mean, it's gone that far. You know what I mean? And at this point, I am very honest with my administration about what it is that I do on the side and the fact that it makes me more money. Like, my principal knows. He knows about my YouTube channel, he knows about my business, and he knows about the fact that it makes me a lot more money than what the district is able to pay me as a teacher. And I understand that these circumstances are very specific to me. I understand that they're very specific to my district. And this is not my way of saying that you should just go and tell everyone in your building, in your district, all your admin about, you know, this new venture that you're starting, because I don't know them. I don't know what the climate is like in your district. I don't know if that is a reason why they would try to find ways to let go of you. There's a lot of considerations, right? For me, though, I just felt very confident in who I was as a teacher, knowing that I was giving my absolute best. I was giving these kids everything that I had. I was giving them so much time, so much extra time compared to what a lot of other teachers in the building were doing. I knew that I was doing a lot in regards to bringing positive PR to our school district, because I was always taking these kids out in the community, having them perform, and just having them make our school and district look good. And I am just so close with my students and their families. Like, it's a strong community. And a lot of that comes from the fact that, you know, this is now my 10th year at this school. It comes from the fact that I have a lot of these students for 4 years. So I have the opportunity to get to know these students and their families over the course of 4 entire years. I get to know their siblings and teach their siblings. My situation may look very different from your situation. And so when we talk about being afraid of what others around you will say, I understand that your fear may be extremely legitimate and that you may have far more reason to fear than I ever did. And I would say if that's the case, there are also so many things that you can do in order to make sure that if someone were to find out about your side hustle, that legally, there is no precedent for you to get in trouble or for your job to be at stake as a result. Obviously, you want to be really careful of certain things. You want to make sure that you never bring any side hustle work into the classroom. You want to make sure that you're never working on your side hustle when you're supposed to be teaching your students. You want to make sure you're never using any school or district resources to do any of your side hustle work. For example, you never want to photocopy anything at work. If you get a computer from school, you honestly should never even do any work for your side hustle on your school computer because they can trace that. They can look at the websites that you visit. They can see what you're doing with your time on your school laptop. You just don't want to give them any reason to say, see, during school hours, your computer was open to your personal website. You don't want to give them any ammunition if you feel like it's a district that, generally comes after teachers for having a life outside of school. I would also say maybe this is not the best district to work for, but you don't want to give them anything to use against you if and when they were to find out that you have a side hustle. You just want to make sure that you keep school things at school and you keep side hustle things at home or at the coffee shop where they belong. And, if you are sharing about your side hustle on your Facebook or your different social media platforms, do the opposite of what I do. Make sure that you don't ever accept friend requests. Make sure you're not friends with any colleagues on your social media accounts. You can actually just keep social media accounts private or just don't do social media at all. If you're afraid of people at work finding out about your side hustle, you can protect yourself in that way. But the biggest protection of all is just being as educated as possible, knowing your rights as a teacher and knowing what are fireable offenses. What is it that you would have to do when it comes to having a side hustle in order for them to let you go? And most likely it's if your side hustle were to get in the way of your performance as a teacher in any way, like if you show up to school and you're just so tired you fall asleep at your desk, or if you're using school resources for your side hustle. Those are most likely fireable offenses. And so you just want to be smart about where and how you are working on your side hustle and how you're promoting your side hustle. The last thing I hear from people when I ask them why they haven't started their side hustle yet is because they're just too scared. They're scared they're going to fail, and so they never start. Or they're scared that it's never going to be at the level that they want it to be at. I have started things and failed at them. I started a blog. This was probably a couple years before I started reselling. So probably around 2015, I started a mommy blog. I enjoyed it, but I never could figure out how to get people to find it and to read it and to make money off of it. I never made money off of it. I lost money on it. I lost money on the domain, and I poured a lot of time into it. But it was fun and it taught me a lot of things. But yeah, I guess technically I failed. I failed to do the thing that I set out to do, which was to make money with it. But I didn't die. I came out the other side and I was fine. And in fact, I came out the other side stronger. I came out the other side more knowledgeable. Now I had all this information about SEO and about how to create a website and about how to write in ways that would hook people. I actually came out way more knowledgeable and way more ready for my next venture, which again, for me was reselling and documenting my reselling journey on places like Instagram and YouTube. I do believe that my failure as a blogger is part of why I found success as a YouTuber. I get that the idea of failing is not fun, and if anything, that it's scary. And it's even more scary if you've told everyone about it. If you're like, I'm going to start this business and I'm so excited to share with you how successful I'll become in the next 6 months or so. And it's scary to think about not doing those things and instead falling flat on your face. But another thing you can't do if you never start is you can't succeed. Another thing you can't do if you never start is start earning life-changing income. If you never get started, you're never going to do anything. And I think that is the thing to fear the most, is the idea that you had something that could have been great, that you have this idea that could make so much money, but you never took action because you were scared that it might not do as well as you hoped it would. That to me is so much scarier than anything else. So much scarier than failing publicly, than failing in a huge way. That would literally haunt my dreams. So I understand that some of you are just scared. You're scared to get started for a number of reasons, whether it's your fear of failure, whether it's your fear of just stepping into the unknown. I don't know what your specific fears are, but I know a lot of you are just simply afraid, and that is fair. I get it, but I would say every time you stop yourself from getting started because you're scared, I would ask you to shift your mindset for a second. And instead of focusing on the things that scare you, focus on that future version of yourself who is living their best life, that future version of themselves that is thriving with this new business that they started for themselves, this new side hustle, this new idea that they were sure could turn into something and could help so many people. I want you to focus instead on that person and where they're at 5 years, 10 years from now. And then I want you to ask yourself, why am I not allowing myself to get there? Why am I not giving myself the chance to at least try? I'm sure there are 100 million other reasons why people haven't started their side hustles yet, even though they've got great ideas. But here's what I'll say. You deserve to try. You owe it to yourself to see what this could become. And yeah, maybe it becomes nothing, but that just means you have more skills, more resilience, more knowledge for your next venture. You don't know what could be waiting for you on the other side of this. I had no idea that if I were to start a YouTube channel, that even without having hundreds of thousands of subscribers, I had no idea that having a YouTube channel could lead to lucrative affiliate marketing, that I could be making more than $100,000 from my side hustle year after year after year. I had no idea. I just had this gut feeling, this dream. And I was like, I'm just going to start. I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. I hope that this episode gives you the strength to do the same, to just take that first step forward, to schedule that first 2 hours in your day in the next week that's coming up, to set aside 2 hours to say, these are my 2 hours to start my new business, to start my side hustle, and to change the rest of my life. As always, from me to you, thank you for being a teacher. Thank you for changing the lives of your students. Now go take the time to change your own life. Go do it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.